Greetings and namaste, and a very happy 2021 to you and yours. This is Shiva, co-creating wellness for all with you. Well, thanks for joining me today. I'm thinking, the first video I'm actually doing this year. Although technically I've, put some things that were either audio format or recorded last year, but released late in the year after that. And I've had plenty of ideas to share with you, but I just have taken on a couple of projects that are sucking me down like crazy, and then also giving a different dimension to my practice, having completed a couple of key educational milestones, one of which I'm pretty stoked about to share with you is the end of a journey of my sort of formal yoga schooling, at the end of which I have become a registered yoga teacher, also known as an RYT 500 in the circles. And yeah, it's kind of a cool deal. And I think I bring something unique to, the amazing group of professionals that's already, there and practicing with this credential, one of which is my ancestry, which is, the home country, India. And then the fact that, I speak certain languages which are not, not mainstream yet. For example, I think I was looking up on the Yoga Alliance directory, how many Hindi-speaking RYT 500s they are. And I think I would probably be number 2 on that list. So, given the popularity of yoga and that it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, it kind of made me feel good. You got to kind of feel good about that type of thing once in a while, right? Especially when it comes at the end of a distinct period of investment and growth, and some trials and tribulations maybe along the way. So today's topic came to me this morning at some point, so I didn't quite strike when the iron is hot like I usually would, but at some point I may get back to that. But the topic was snacking, and how might Ayurveda or yoga or wellness view that concept of snacking. So I gotta confess, I am a totally guilty snacker. I'm a grazer. Well, not a grazer, I'm a snacker, but I'm like I can be a mega snacker. I can put away, or at least I could put away like pounds of fries. Fries was my thing back in the day, significantly back in the day when my metabolism was not quite where it is right now. But yeah, I could maybe put away, 4 pounds of fries, and it wouldn't show up anywhere. Today, it'll show up plenty of ways, right? Fact is, I'm not where I was. Plus, maybe that's not what my body is asking for, right? So I said, let's maybe unravel the onion here, just like a conversation between you and I, and kind of see what's this deal with snacking. So one line of thought I've come across in Ayurveda circles, consultations, on both sides of the board, whether I'm doing the consulting or I'm being consulted, is that snacking is just not a thing in Ayurveda. It's just not a thing. In other words, Ayurveda, sort of, when I think about the principles of this system, it is really based on leading a full life and functioning at peak capacity that, is possible for your life stage and your environment and your specific constitution. And so I was like, is snacking not part of living a full life? You know, I just want my fries, so I'm going to find any way to argue the case, right? You can see that coming. But, you know, like my friendly doc said, if you've seen another of my videos, it's like know both sides. So if you just come about it from that perspective, and when you say know both sides, it's not just the intellectual knowing, it's like the experiential knowing, it's like the gut reaction, it's like what you see around and observe. And all of that pulled together and more is going to inform you as to what is the best decision under a certain set of circumstances, given the, you know, the data set, the mindset, the knowledge base that one has. And furthermore, real time, you know, as you're in that process, in the snack event, what is happening? So being mindful of that. So I think it all really comes down to mindfulness, which is why I think the ancients were not as distracted, not nearly as we are, with the multitude of, you know, chores and dings on our phone and, you know, vataness going through our mind, all this movement, this rajas, this like frenzy of activity, and, you know, the cars going at speeds that no human is typically capable of. And it's just like a swirl, right? A swirl of maybe too much movement, too much rajas. And rajas is a guna, you know, that's topic for maybe another day. Let me know if you're interested. I'll get some going for that, you know, in sort of this conversational way, not academic in that sense. Although I do want to go down that route too, because I think there's something, you know, you should kind of drink water from every well and then, you know, see what works for you. But yeah, so when I think about just the principles of Ayurveda really is big on digestion. And it believes digestion happens because of Agni, the digestive fire, the transformational fire that takes in, you know, the apple or the, you know, like, you know, an Indian roti or rice or, you know, hunk of meat, whatever, and makes it you, makes it me. You know, I eat an apple, becomes part of me. You know, that's like, I just think about that basic thing. It's like mind blowing. Wow. It's like, if you put like the apple next to me, it's like, it might be the apple of my mom's eye, but otherwise, you know, the resemblance isn't necessarily striking, right? But chomp, 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 and, you know, a little while later, apple starts becoming part of me, and that is the digestive process. That is Agni at work. And if I am stoking Agni and I'm honoring its presence and I'm mindful of when I'm eating the apple, how much apple I'm eating, and what state of ripeness or unripeness it is in, chances are it'll assimilate more fully, right? You with me? So when we make the transition from digestion to the purpose of digestion, it is really to supply the energy, contribute to the ojas, the vitality, the life force that our body needs. And now the next question that might come is, so what is the nature of this energetic need? So now this is going to vary from person to person, right? And I think this is where we start to get into that snacking piece or grazing piece, just purely from a functional standpoint of what is the function of taking in food, digestion. So it is to do stuff, right? Whether it's working in the fields or it's sitting, you know, in a cubicle, not anymore probably, sitting in our jammies at home, Zooming on a call or whatever your fix might be, work fix might be. It's doing some action, and, you know, the brain, you know, mental activity can burn for its size, you know, a disproportionate amount of calories. So it's not as if you're just sitting and thinking and doing stuff and working on, you know, a document or spreadsheet or presentation or conferring with colleagues. It's not as if you're not burning calories. You still are. It's just a different sort of caloric expenditure, in the sense that does not really involve your whole body per se. It's focused here, right? But that's really the purpose of this whole nutrition and then digestion piece, is to support that activity. If that activity were not to occur, then, why are we going through all this trouble? I mean, sure, food tastes good, depending on how and when you have it and what it is and all of that type of stuff. But really, why are we doing this? It's like, if I did not do this, at some point my brain would freeze, or, my glycemic, index, or, I'd have a sugar crash, or I just wouldn't have the energy to continue that type of activity for X amount of time. And before I know it, then the body's going to store to, turn to like muscles and, other things to get its sustenance. So at a very basic level, it's sustenance. Going the next level up, it's, let's say, performance, right? You're performing something, and therefore you need that. And depending on what type of performance it is, your needs are going to be different. Still not at snacking. Keeping track, aren't you? So that brings us to the concept of meals. And there's a little bit of separation going on here, maybe a little bit of specialization going on here. Maybe when I think of meals, I'm like, why don't we just have a Camelback? And, I'm just got this little pureed concoction going on in there. Maybe it's warm because Ayurveda says do not have cold foods. You're just like basically pouring ice on your fire. Our internal body temperature is, whatever, 98.6 Fahrenheit, 37 degrees C, give or take. And now we take a glass of cold water at, I don't know, like 13 degrees C, 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and you pour it down the hatch, and what's going to happen is it's like fire and a 50-degree delta there or something, 60 even. This, by the way, is coriander fennel water. So depending on your constitution, you might want to try one of these bad boys. Pretty cool. That's what my Ayurvedic doc recommended for my constitution. So there you go. Got to do what the doc says. So the meal piece comes into the equation, I feel, is when you have a certain performance that is required in a day, and then you say, okay, I'm going to fuel up, just like you're going on a trip in your car, right? First fuel up, and then you proceed on the trip, right? Then you hit the gas. Don't want to do it the other way around, unless, there's something else going on there that you're trying to achieve. But for most of us regular folks, I guess, not doing some crazy fasting technique or some other, trying to achieve some other yogic siddhis or whatnot. It's like you fuel up, which is your meal, and then you go. But that's fine and dandy, but then at some point, there's this urge, this craving, this need, this opportunity, this distraction, and that's where the snacking piece might come in, right? It's like, I feel like a pick-me-up. I'm gonna get me a cup of tea, chai, as they say in India. Even otherwise, that's where the chai word came from. And I'm gonna have this little Snickers bar, or I'm gonna, again, let's go back to our friend the apple. I'm gonna munch on an apple. I'm gonna be healthy like that. Not go for all that sugary, processed stuff. Bag of chips, smoothie, whatever, right? But I think the Ayurvedic perspective, when it says, nah, don't snack, is that a thing? What is snacking? Who needs it? What's the function? I think that's where the clue lies, right? What's the function? What need is it serving at that moment in time? So when I think about the need, I'm like, there's possibilities here. One, my meal was incomplete in some way, and the snack is sort of trying to band-aid that incompleteness downstream after the fact. Number two, which is sort of related to incompleteness, but maybe you can separate the more physical, tangible, gross aspects of the meal from its more qualitative consciousness, emotional, psychological aspects, right? Maybe it was incomplete in one of those dimensions. And now again, Mr. Snack or Ms. Snack or whatever pronoun they choose to assume are now that conduit to, didn't quite get it there. Now, here we go. So I think that's where the connection is. So 15 minutes into the video, there you have it. Kind of the seed of what I wanted to share with you is there was this unmet need, assuming we're having meals at regular times, we're not overexerting during this performance that we're doing, whatever that may be. If our meal was correctly designed and correctly ingested under the right circumstances at the right time, all that type of stuff, more or less, right? Not looking for perfection here, but I'm just looking for a mindful meal experience. If that meal experience was mindful and well-crafted and well-designed and well-intentioned and more complete than what it might be under more distracted or haphazard circumstances, then the snacking need should not arise. And if it does, the question might be to explore, examine this need as really a need for snacking or something else, right? So going back to sort of that meal aspects, and I covered some, like I put an acronym of how to maybe prepare for a meal and stuff, but essentially you can look at that video. Maybe I'll link it in the comments. I'm not doing a great job at that so far. At some point I'll go through all my videos and look back at where I said, oh, look at this video, and then I'll link it in the comments for sure. But you know me, I'll got a to-do list, and this is not the highest thing on that. More important is to just put stuff out there on a more or less regular basis. So if I look at my own trajectory, if I had a meal that was not mindful, I didn't take the time to, well, first of all, even pre-meal, the meal before the meal is like setting the stage for what am I going to have? What is going to nourish me? And just building up that hype of, yes, I'm going to get nourished. And today it's going to be this lovely biryani that my lovely wife prepared, or this dish of okra, bhindi, as they say in Hindi, Hindi, go for it if you want to rap on that one. You can, prepare your body for that experience coming, and that in itself, if you just think about it, the mind is a powerful tool, right? It's the king of all senses. You think about the five senses, not talking about sixth sense and gut feels and all that type of stuff, just the physical, tangible five senses, sight, smell, taste, sound, and touch. The mind can conjure any one of those at will, or a combination thereof. Isn't that mind-blowing? I mean, think about it. I hear a tune that, I was hearing back when I was in high school. And my mind takes me back to that place, that image of, high school Shiva and doing X, Y, and Z at that time, hanging out with the buddies or, biking somewhere on my bicycle. And wow, whoop, that's teleportation right there, right? Traveling without moving. Sometimes we smell certain things, certain spice combo, or maybe we taste a certain taste, and it takes us back to that sweet memory of maybe home-baked bread, or this sweet dessert that mom used to make, or some sort of thing. Or maybe it might be even a not so stellar memory, but it's still as strong, it's still vivid. And that's where like the mind can basically just put you back there in that experience. So the point of this being is when we prep for the meal, when we approach it with attention and dhyan or concentration, in yogic terms, getting to that place of really going inward and to a place of honor and respect, we connect differently with that eating experience. And that eventually this multi-dimensional connection is what fills us. So if I go like I normally do, is just I'm hungry, jump, I'll do my thing, not quite the whole experience. I'm not fulfilled holistically. And maybe over time I find I've put in like pounds and pounds and pounds of more food than I need, that maybe could have gone somewhere else, that the planet didn't have to even produce in the first place for me to survive in any meaningful way. I'm just like, my strategy is kind of skewed, right? It's like over dependence on the physical gross piece and at the expense of these other subtler pieces. And I'm not doing anyone any favors, including me. So that's part of the, I think, philosophy of, if your meal is complete, if you design a complete meal for your constitution that addresses these different dimensions of your being, that is what a meal is, and that is what leads to like an out of this world performance, and a performance that is not necessarily even as subject to the vagaries of time and age and other things that maybe are out of our eventual control, long-term control. But that performance can be is always there. That performance mode is always there, because this completeness, this mindfulness is being practiced on a regular, daily, moment-to-moment basis. That's quite a mind shift if I think about that. And I would initially wonder, who's going to have time for this? How am I going to like bring all of this together and still do the stuff I need to do? So, nothing ventured, nothing gained, don't knock it till you try it. That's the other part of me that kind of gets me out of some of these, yes, no dialogues in my mind without doing anything. It's like, okay, let me try it. Let me try it at a small scale. So don't want to go the full Monty. I mean, unless you're ready for it and you have that type of time set aside, maybe just try small steps, and see the effects. Notice, if nothing else, that mindfulness, that consciousness practice that hopefully is already being worked on is going to clue into ahas and insights of here's the tweaks I need to make in my schedule, in my meals. And then I realize that I'm actually functioning at a higher capacity when my work gets done in half the time, even though I might be spending double the time on this mindful eating experience. But even if it's a net acceleration or gain of zero, the qualitative benefits are huge, because you just went through a super mindful experience of nourishing yourself, and then a super high performance mode. And if the time is the same, isn't it much better than rushing through a meal and spending hours performing and still not being satisfied at the end? I think it's way more fulfilling, right? So maybe try it, see what happens. And also, if nothing else, like I said, just noticing what brings up the snacking. Like for me, sometimes I've probably put this in other videos before, but depending on, how many are watching and how closely, how far into the video you manage to make it, you may or may not have caught it. So I'm just going to repeat it, and I think it bears repeating, because some other little dimension might come out, some other flavor might come out as I even repeat myself. But snacking could be emotional. I'm just lonely. It could be sensory. I long for this taste. It could be psychological. I want to numb myself. I don't want to have to deal with tiredness or the impending deadline at work or something like that. Or could also be, it's sort of escapist in that sense, right? So look at what's what need is being technically or in the moment sort of being met by that snacking. What happens before the snacking, what led up to the snacking. Was it simply just an energy drop and now you need to prop yourself back up, which is more related to the grosser aspects of food, getting the right balances. Ayurveda talks about the six tastes, eating the right quantity, the right types of food for your specific dosh, dosh mix up, not mix up, but constitution. And look at it that way. But if it's more driven by some of these other urges that we spoke about, psychological, emotional, even maybe a soul conscious, some other deeper craving, longing in your heart, then it's you're onto something there. And that could be a breakthrough, not only in terms of if someone's trying to lose weight or get fitter, leaner, reducing their calorie intake, whatever that goal might be. This kind of puts a little more holistic lens on it and gives a little more insight into the trigger that causes it versus just trying to say, okay, I will not snack, and you're gritting your teeth. And that's not the life we're meant to live, gritting our teeth, No, I'm not quite masochistic in that sense, so forgive me. I think life is just meant to be experienced fully for whatever is going on at any given point in time, because there's a million and then some things in motion, more than 99% of which are out of our control, that are outside of us and even inside of us. But at least we can control, or be not control, but tap into what is really going on that is, leading to a chain of events. And also notice, just little things like, when it's like when we start an exercise program, we suddenly get all healthy. We're looking at labels and we're looking, okay, I'm not going to eat this, I'm going to do that. I'm going to, we're sort of on our best behavior, but then it sort of peters out at some point. Why does that happen? Why do the majority of the diets fail? No one can maintain a diet for years together, let alone a lifetime. So that's where one has to understand what needs are trying to be met. And it's not just the need of losing weight. It's this overall need, food meets an emotional need. Food can meet a psychological need. And what's all that going on? Sort of in a more general macro sense, and then micro sense per meal. Every meal you tap into what is happening. What is, how much is enough? What is it that I'm enjoying the most? Sometimes if, for example, let's say I go for a buffet. Again, this is back in the day, but I go for a buffet and I sample different things, and suddenly I would say, yeah, I want more of that, more of that, more of that. And that's really yummy. That's really yummy. And that's what I focus on maybe in my second round or third round. And clues, right? These are just clues. Clues I leave myself in some way, but I need to take the time to start peeling it back to say, okay, what piece of the puzzle is this alerting me to? So yeah, hopefully gave you some perspective into snacking. Yeah, one more thing. I think back to where we started with the Agni piece. Ayurveda is very particular about, and let me check my battery level here. I think we're good. Yep. So Ayurveda is very particular about Agni, right? So when we snack, what is happening? Agni is let's say, let's rewind a little bit. We go back to the meal, and now we had a full meal. What's going on? The body started digesting it. It's going through, making its way through the process of digestion. And now maybe it's not digested fully. Maybe it is. Maybe it's time for the next meal. Maybe it's not. But the snack thing comes in, and now Agni is confused. Hey, dude, I'm working on stuff here. Don't, stuff more things down the chute right now. I don't need it. And when we, out of, the mistakes of the intellect, the pragya prad, we just push it down anyway. It's Agni's okay, buddy, you're going to learn the hard way. So here you go. It's not going to be completely digested. And one point or the other, there's going to be some sort of hell to pay, right? So Piper always needs to be paid. So I think that's the other thing, is recognizing that sanctity of Agni and tapping into that process of knowing when digestion is done and it's time for the next meal, the next performance, and not bringing snacks into the equation. I mean, if one does have to snack, then make it a meal of some sort. I mean, whatever need that's fulfilling. You know, I want something crisp. You know, I want something salty. I mean, whatever that is, bring that into the next meal. But don't like interrupt that cadence by just snacking willy-nilly. Again, the thing is willy-nilly, right? You want to do it with consciousness. There has to be a purpose and there has to be a cause and effect. You know, I did this and that's what happened. Good idea, bad idea, you know, should be examined, because over time, this is what adds up, right? This is what adds up into disease. This is what adds up into debility. This is what adds up into just a less optimal state of being overall. So those are, you know, some things I kind of think about when, you know, considering this sort of no snacking thing in Ayurveda. Yeah, I'm sure there's many more insights, you know, how we want to not multitask, and snacking is kind of multitasking. You know, that's another perspective that comes to mind. Unmet needs, you know, that's sort of the baseline here. Completeness in everything, and a mindfulness in everything. I think those are the high points, but, you know, feel free to hit rewind and go through some of the jibber jabber of the last half hour. Let me know what you think. You know, how's your snacking experience? Do you think that's a crime you're doing? A crime against yourself? Or do you think it's okay once in a while? Which Ayurveda, by the way, recommends. You know, if there's a strong urge to do something, you know, whether it's emotional, you know, sexual, it's letting out something like, you know, hiccup, a burp, a sneeze, a cough. It says do not suppress it. If something is that strong, the body needs to, that's the body's natural evolved mechanism to let it out, you know, let it out, let it out. But do not harm others, you know, the ahimsa principle of yoga. And then, you know, at the same time, suppressing it means harming yourself. So don't do that either. That is also ahimsa, right? So let it out, but then do it in a way that has the least, does the least damage, if at all. Because by releasing it, you're going to just do yourself a favor in this sort of dignified, conscious way. And then later on, go and revisit, okay, something, you know, bubbled up, something was festering over time, something was just building up and came out as an urge, this not so, you know, sophisticated or finely tuned rhythm. It's just like erupted. So eruptions are good, maybe for a dramatic effect, but generally you don't want that to be a regular thing. So again, go back, examine what caused it. So again, you know, if there's an urge to snack, maybe give into that urge, but like I said, even real time, you know, you take that first bite, you take that second bite of that naughty thing, that contraband food item, and 3 bites in, you know, start to connect the dots, you know, take a deep breath. You know, my favorite thing, just take pause and say, oh, okay, what did I just do? What part did this, what gap did this address, or gaps? There may be multiple. There likely will be multiple. Yeah, you know, we're complex beings, you know, having built this, you know, these tendencies, these vikritis over time, these imbalances, we are, there's a lot that has contributed to it, both from the outside imbalance that goes on. You know, it could be as simple as stuff we can't control. Like I said, you might be living the most Ayurvedic and yogic life possible, but you can't control what's happening necessarily. You can just control adaptations in certain cases, right? So the seasons change. You have to adapt to the seasons. You can't say, okay, now winter's not going to happen, or every time winter's going to happen, I'm going to like fly to a warmer country, or vice versa, right? You're still getting on that plane or whatever, or taking that journey in which your body's shocked or adapting itself to that new climb. So you can't like make your own weather in that sense, right? On the outside. So, you know, there's no black and white. You know, I'm like, it's a rainbow of colors. That's how life is. So let's not treat it as simplistically as just being black or white, or even gray for that matter, because I think that hides many nuances too. So on that note, I bid you adieu. This is again the first, I think, technical video for 2021. Check out some of the tunes I've started to put out. I finally started to come out of my composer shell a little more publicly, and let me know what you'd like to see in this new year. You know, write me privately. You can find my email address on the About page of the channel. You can probably Google me. I'm not that famous, but if you look hard enough or Google right, you can find me on my links, of course, are in my channel header. You know, Facebook's there, LinkedIn's there. Third Eye Life Design, sort of the wellness coaching part of this whole thing is on there. I think there's Patreon and my usual descriptions. Yeah, and you know, we can connect that way, right? So I hope this is the reason this channel is there. I pray and I take action and set intention that this planet, this universe, our collective spirit, our soul, our consciousness, our being experience as much wellness as is possible. And, you know, keep up the good work, and we'll see you soon.